With 12 stops on the menu today, we have a huge helping of top and low performers in this week's Food for Thought.
KCBD News Channel 11's Christy Harden joins us with details. Christy?
Karen and Abner, with more than 100 combined violations, we're going to get right to that report.
Ohana Ramen and Sushi Bar at 5214 98th had 17 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Raw eggs were above the safe cold temperature of 41 degrees. There was no log sheets noting the time when sushi rice was prepared. A container of raw shrimp was being thawed in the 3-compartment sink, which was contaminated with soap. A knife was improperly stored and touching food residue and debris. An employee washed their gloved hands. An employee washed their hands for only 10 seconds. They must be washed for at least 20 seconds. A bowl, a stainless steel scrubber, and a pot lid were in a hand sink. Hand sinks are for hand washing only to prevent cross-contamination. The report shows most of the violations were corrected at the time of the inspection. Miguel's at 2002 Broadway had 18 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Multiple food items were above the safe cold temperature of 41 degrees, including ready-to-eat shrimp, beans, diced tomatoes, and sour cream. The inspector notes the ambient temperature of the cooler was 50 degrees. Rice was not hot enough. Several ready-to-eat foods were held for longer than 5 or 7 days, including chicken, pozole, and chili con carne. Barbacoa did not have a use-by date. Ready-to-eat beef shank had mold growth. The restaurant served shrimp ceviche without an approved variance. Cut tomatoes were marked with an 8-day use-by date. They must be used or discarded within 7 days. The dishwasher was not sanitizing. The manual shutoff valves used as a backflow device were not designed or approved for that specific application. The report shows most of the violations were corrected while the inspector was there. Totally Tea inside the South Plains Mall at 6002 Slide Road had 18 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Utensils like shaker cups were only being sanitized once a day after being used for roughly 10 hours. They must be cleaned and sanitized at least every 4 hours. Utensils are not being allowed to properly air dry. A spray bottle was not labeled. The water at a hand sink was not hot enough. Sanitizer test strips were more than a year expired, and there was no bleach or chlorine sanitizer available. There were no paper towels at a hand sink. 2 bulk containers of boba were damaged and had visible residue on them. The boba packages are labeled for refrigeration, but at least 2 containers were kept at room temperature with no written procedure recording when they were opened. The inspector notes, due to the number and nature of the violations, the person in charge and the staff were not able to demonstrate food safety knowledge and need more training and resources. The report shows most of the violations were corrected at the time of the inspection. Chuy's Mexican Food at 4805 South Loop 289 had 20 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Cooked chicken was not at least 135 degrees. An open bag of sliced jalapenos was inside a container of salad. Green chili salsa was held past its use-by date. One employee washed their hands for 6 seconds. Another employee washed their hands for only 10 seconds. The minimum time for hand washing is 20 seconds. Plates and bowls were visibly dirty. Clean utensils, servicewares, and lids were visibly soiled with food residue. A spatula was chipped and missing pieces. A sanitizer solution was at toxic levels. The water in the wash machine was not hot enough to sanitize, and there was no temperature gauge for that machine. The report shows most of the violations were corrected at the time of the inspection. Orlando's at 6951 Indiana had 23 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Cooked rice was above the safe cold temperature of 41 degrees. Soups in the walk-in cooler did not have a date mark. A cutting board and a tomato slicer that had not been used that day were visibly dirty. Clean spoons and forks had food on them. The coffee pots were soiled. A barrier like a paper towel was not used to turn off the faucet at the hand sink. This is to prevent cross-contamination. An employee rubbed their hands on their clothing and then returned to food prep without washing their hands. Ceramic serving bowls were damaged. Sanitizer solutions were not stored correctly, and the lid gasket on a reach-in freezer was damaged. The report shows most of the violations were corrected while the inspector was there. Now to the good news. Here's a look at this week's top performers. Dave's Hot Chicken at 6311 82nd. Dippin' Dots inside the South Plains Mall at 6002 Slide. Starbucks at 8001 University. The Starbucks inside United at 12815 Indiana. Sonic Drive-In at 4904 Indiana. Danny's Fins and Hens Catering and Dub's Home Cooking and Catering.
You can check out that full list of violations on our website. Just go to kcbd.com, click on Food for Thought. Karen and Abner, back to you.